Yeah.
You want to like them, but you can't.
Are you listening?
What?
Are you listening?
Did you bring me on this show to insult me?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all don't want it with us, man. We straight gangsters over here.
Straight
man.
gangsters.
Ah.
Yeah, good morning and welcome back. You are listening to Scout Team Radio. We bring it to you hot and live each and every morning, Monday through Friday, right here on 12 Ounce Sports. I am one of your gracious hosts. They call me Loudbeard.
You are the most egotistical, self-deluded person I have ever met.
Yep, that's kind of true. And the man on the other microphone, he is a great American. He is a great patriot. You may know him as
America. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is your boy Chris America coming to you live this Monday, January the 6th, 2020. Loudbeard, and it was a fantastic 2 weeks off. Got to get in a lot of sports, a lot of movies, and a lot of playoff football.
Oh yeah, this weekend alone was an outstanding weekend for football, man. Now, this was one of the best playoff weekends I've seen in my lifetime. I'll be honest with you. Lots of overtime, lots of drama, lots of excitement, and this is a great way to start out. Us coming back after having a 2-week hiatus is coming off of such an amazing weekend in football.
You know, this weekend served as a reminder that we do not need to overreact to one game. If you remember, halfway through the season last year, Loudbeard, the Rams and the Chiefs had a college football-esque type game where it was, like 56-52, something crazy. And everybody's like, the sky is falling. There's no more defense in the NFL. Then we had the Super Bowl that we had last year. And then we had a weekend like we had this weekend where there was some offense, but defenses reigned this weekend.
Oh, yeah, the defense is where it's at. And I will also say, on top of that, the running game is where it's at, too. I know in the NFL we've kind of have this lost art form known as the bell cow running back, but I think these teams that can effectively run the ball and have a good defense, it's the same recipe the 1985 Bears used. It works. And the teams that are the high flyers, the ones with all the yards and all these wide receivers that do really well, guess what? All those teams, they're not in the playoffs anymore.
Well, you still got the Chiefs. I'd say they're a high-flying team. The Saints, they're more of a high-flying team, but look what happened to them. Eliminated. The Vikings defense came out to play.
They did not mess around.
I don't think anybody saw Drew Brees getting held to under 20 points before overtime.
Even the commentators were talking about how this Vikings defense had been a little disappointing this season, how a guy like Xavier Rhodes, a Florida State legend, was having one of the worst seasons of his career, a former All-Pro, had trouble with coverage all season long, but a guy that steps up in a big game. So you could see that those players, they were all ready. They were coached up. Mike Zimmer to me, is one of those underrated coaches out there that doesn't get the credit he deserves because Minnesota's kind of a market that isn't a loud, boisterous fan base, that isn't a big, flashy Dallas or New York. They just go out and do their business, and Mike Zimmer coached that team up, and that defense was unbelievable. They got to Drew Brees. They didn't give him any time. That defensive pressure on that front line was just fantastic all game long, and Drew Brees just didn't have the answer. A guy that typically can just dissect any defense struggled with that Minnesota Vikings defense this weekend.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, man. Like, that power running game is what came through also. They relied heavily on their run game, on their offense. Not that Kirk Cousins didn't throw the ball much. He threw the ball 31 times, but they also ran it, looks like, well over 35. So Dalvin Cook had 28 carries for nearly 100 yards, but 2 touchdowns. And Kirk Cousins did, people don't like to hear this, but he managed the game, and he managed the game better than what Drew Brees managed the game.
Yeah, and with this game, I guess this was a good game for Kirk Cousins to finally come out, right? We've been talking about Kirk Cousins for 5 years now and how he's a really great NFL quarterback, and he had this stigma of not being able to be a big game quarterback. And just you saying, oh, he managed the game. Yeah, we're going to talk about quarterbacks being game managers being a negative connotation, but in this reality, if he's going to win a playoff game in overtime and help carry this team to a win, I mean, to me, being a game manager means you're a big game quarterback. You were able to step up against a Hall of Famer in Drew Brees, go toe-to-toe, and what Kirk Cousins did in overtime was had that huge pass that was absolutely a beautiful spiral on the money to Adam Thielen that set up that final score. And even when they were on the 2-yard line or 3-yard line, wherever they were at, that they were 3rd and goal. They needed a touchdown to finish it. He has a beautiful pass to Kyle Rudolph in the corner of the end zone. I mean, Kirk Cousins finally, I think, got that monkey off his back. Do you feel like just one game can now get Kirk Cousins past this whole he's not a big game quarterback type of guy?
No, I don't know if one game will do it. I think he's going to need at least 2 playoff wins here in this run. Otherwise, if they go back and lose next week, which they play, who do they play? The 49ers?
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe it is the 49ers go against the Vikings. Yes, they do.
Or who on the NFC? No, the Seahawks. Are they ranked above? Are they seated higher than the Vikings? I don't know how that works because they're both
wild cards, right? So
no, I think the
one
Seahawks
with the best
are ranked
record.
higher.
Yes,
I think the
they had a
Seahawks
better
are
record.
ranked higher. So, yeah. So the Vikings will play the 49ers, but now that's another test. If this Vikings defense can come out and test Drew Garoppolo. That's a radio personality here, and he used to be in Orlando. Now he's in Tampa. Jimmy Garoppolo. He's got his work cut out for him, man, because Drew Brees played like Kirk Cousins. What we expect Kirk Cousins to do: 1 interception and then a huge fumble towards the end of the game. They could have won that game, but Drew Brees just didn't give it all.
Yeah, and this is tough because the Saints now in the last 3 playoffs have lost these gut-wrenching, heartbreaking games. And you wonder, I mean, Drew Brees, he seems like he's the engine that drives this team, but just coming up short in these close games, it's kind of hard to see a guy with Drew Brees' background and his resume not coming through and really finding a way to win these games.
I mean, to me, that's what makes, I hate to say it, Tom Brady the greatest of all time. Because in those situations when he has a team like Drew Brees has around him, he usually doesn't come up short. Now, yes, he's lost 3 Super Bowls, but the fact that he's gotten to 3 Super Bowls to lose, let alone win 6, says a lot.
No, I absolutely agree with you on that. And Drew Brees, I feel like he has that in him. It just hasn't materialized as good as what we would have hoped. And, yeah, I mean, it's been tough for the Saints. Now, a lot of people will argue about that pass interference call last year, and that was definitely a pass interference call. But I'm starting to see a lot of people argue about every call the refs make, including on that final drive when the Vikings won it in overtime. Offensive pass interference that wasn't called on Kyle Rudolph. I'm starting to see Saints fans up in arms about this. Chris America, I don't know if you got to analyze this play or not, but did you personally feel like the refs missed the call by not calling offensive pass interference on Kyle Rudolph?
That is one of those calls where if they throw the flag and you're anybody but a Saints fan, we're sitting here saying you do not make that call in this big of a game. Because
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you on that.
the arm extension, while it was there, it wasn't egregious. It wasn't what made or broke that play. And it was just bang, bang. Both guys are making contact, and, the receiver won the jump ball.
All right, so we got a tweet coming in on the Twitter line. You can always hit us up at Scout Team Radio. We love when our listeners get interactive. This guy, he looks kind of familiar. The real man with the golden mic, okay. He says, at Scout Team Radio, that overtime touchdown was pass interference. Cousins is not top 5. Okay, this is an interesting perspective we're getting in here. I'm with you, Chris America. I feel like it was a bang-bang play. You're not gonna get that call, especially on the offensive side. Offensive pass interference is rarely called, and when it is called, it usually has to be very egregious. And if you look at any NFL play, you're going to see that sort of contact coming on almost every pass play. Every pass play.
Especially on a fade route like that.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely for sure. So we're getting differing opinion here from the real man with the golden mic.
Well,
that's okay. He can have that differing opinion. We're okay with that.
I should change what I said. I said everybody but Saints fans and people who went around all week telling people that the Saints were going to crush the Vikings and that Kirk Cousins couldn't handle winning that game. That there's no way Kirk Cousins was going to win in the Dome. So everybody but those two types of people.
Yeah, well, he proved you wrong. He's
And
not
gamblers.
a Saints fan. Oh, gamblers, yes. When you're betting your money, you don't care. You have no allegiances other than the team that you put your money on. Now, the other thing interesting in his tweet, you got the hashtag Cousins is not top 5. Okay, that's an interesting hashtag.
Well,
that goes back to the roots of Scout Team Radio, doesn't it?
Yeah, that goes all the way back to where Kirk Cousins was a Redskins fan, and we all know that every Redskins quarterback is a top 5 quarterback, according to Loudbeard.
Yes, I am a Redskins fan, and my entire life is being a Redskins fan. I always look for a little bit of hope, and a few years ago, I had quite a bit of hope that Kirk Cousins was going to be a top 5 quarterback, and so I made that claim. And
Yes, it's like
I'm not
The
getting it
Secret.
let
You got to
down.
speak it into existence.
And look at him. He's driving a team. He's winning games against Drew Brees and the Saints. He's taking his team to the playoffs. You like that? You like that? I don't know if you saw this, but in the locker room after the game, he was doing a little motivational speech, and he told his team, he said, "Team, I've got 3 words for you." And he did the classic, "You like that?" as we've all seen on the GIF. Yes, it was. I really, in those moments, like when you watch a movie and like it just something crazy happens and it just all comes together and you get like goosebumps or your hair stands on end. I felt that way when Kirk Cousins said, "You like that?" I don't know why. The hair stood on end and I felt something warm and fuzzy.
So, Loudbeard, you had asked me the question, do I think the one game overturned the history of Kirk Cousins and winning the big game and everything, right?
I did ask you that question.
I have a question for you. Do you think one game cancels out the history of everything and the New England Patriots are donezo? The era is over. The dynasty is dead. Do you believe that one playoff loss in the first round proves that it's over?
Wow, this is an important question, right? Or we're talking, is this the end of an era like you had said, where a team won 6 Super Bowls, went to 9 Super Bowls, Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, probably the most dynamic of duos, up there with Batman and Robin, and you wonder, is it all over? A 42-year-old Tom Brady, a Bill Belichick who has been coaching pretty well, gets knocked out in that wild card. And on top of that, the final game of the season when they could have had a bye, they lose to the hapless Miami Dolphins and that Ryan Fitzmagic trick that they like to pull. And yeah, I'm gonna have to say, Chris America, that this is no longer going to be the New England Patriots that we've known, the one that we've all hated, and the one that we have thought year in and year out, I should put money on them winning the Super Bowl because it's basically almost a guarantee each and every year. That team, that dynasty, that era, that is all gone. And the beginning of that is figuring out where the heck Tom Brady is going to go. Is he going to stay in New England? Is he going to retire? Is he going to... He's not the same Tom Brady. This is not the same New England Patriots. And that dynasty, that era, it is over.
So I kind of look at it two ways. One is because they won 6 in 20 years and they've won 2 or 3 recently, right? Yeah, 3 recently.
Yes.
We sit there and we think that the Patriots winning the Super Bowl or going to the Super Bowl every year is a thing, when it's not. We went 10 years, I think it was, without a Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and New England Patriots Super Bowl. We went 10 years where they only went to the Super Bowl twice, and they lost twice. So that doesn't mean the dynasty's dead just because they won 1 playoff game. Here's what people are forgetting. This was for New England Patriots standards and for a lot of NFL team standards, this wasn't a good football team. The defense was really good, but who are their running backs? Who are their wide receivers? Who is their offensive lineman? We don't really know anymore because that offense was bad, and that was still good enough for them to almost get a bye week in the playoffs. That was almost good enough to what do they have, like a 12-4 record? And if this is them at their worst, or sorry, they were 12-5. Nope, 12-4. I guess they added the playoff loss because they don't play 17 games, but they were 12-4 record, won their division, almost had a chance at a bye week. They could have finished 13-3. This is what a bad New England Patriots team looks like. I would hate to see what happens if Bill Belichick gets another. He doesn't even need a Tom Brady again. He doesn't need a greatest quarterback of all time. He could use a guy like Kirk Cousins or, I don't know, anybody really. I'm trying to think of who else are like mediocre, like not great, but they're still decent quarterbacks. He could use a guy like that and still win.
Ooh, you're saying a lot there. You're saying that Bill Belichick could win with just anybody.
No, not just anybody. I don't think he can come in and win with like a Jameis Winston.
Well,
although maybe he could get Jameis Winston to stop throwing interceptions. I don't know, but maybe Jameis Winston's bad. I don't think he can come in and win with Ryan Fitzpatrick year in year out like he did with Tom Brady.
His protege won with Ryan Tannehill as quarterback. I'm just going to put that out there.
That he did. He beat. And you know what's funny is everybody's giving Ryan Tannehill credit for beating the Patriots. He was 8 of 15 for 72 yards.
Yeah, he handed the ball off to Derrick Henry very well. That's why.
This is why you can't just always give the win to the quarterback, and this is why you can't because this is what's going to happen. They're going to go into the offseason. They're probably going to lose to whoever they play. I don't know. I think they play the Ravens, right? Pretty sure
yes.
They play the Ravens. So they're going to go into the offseason and say, oh, Ryan Tannehill turned us around. Ryan Tannehill won a playoff game at home on the road against the Patriots. And that's not the whole story.
Now, I got an interesting tweet that came in, Chris America. Somebody out there agrees with you. The real man with the golden mic, he says, saying New England is done is like saying Bama is done. Belichick has won with less. If he returns, he'll be in the running. So he's saying, basically agreeing with what you're saying, is as long as he has a decent quarterback, I mean, it's still Belichick. He's still the mastermind, and he's still going to get a team that is competitive. Now, he may not be in the playoffs year in and year out without the excellence of Tom Brady, but he's going to be there in that conversation.
I don't know. He might have seasons like this season where he'll make the playoffs but then be one and done.
Yeah, there's got to be a point where he falls off the cliff. There's got to be that one point where it's just not the same team. Now, he's still doing the right things. He's still drafting well. He still does a lot of those trades where he hoards these late-round draft picks and let me trade back and get 2 extra 7th-round picks. And He ends up finding the right guys for his system and getting some of these savvy veterans on cheaper deals. He does a lot of the right moves. I mean, Belichick is a mastermind, and I'm not going to put that past it. It's just going to feel a lot different without Tom Brady. And now Brady could come back. Now, what I'm reading is that Tom Brady said he's no longer going to give the hometown discount. As we all know, he is given a little bit of a better deal to the Patriots so that they could be a competitive team. At 42 years of age, I think he realizes he's probably not going to get any more large contracts after this year. So he's going to say, you know what, I'm going all in. So the Patriots have to pay him. That's number one. And this is the ultimate test for Bill Belichick. Does Bill Belichick say, that's it, Tom Brady isn't performing the same way Tom Brady used to, it's time to move on? That would be a huge decision for a guy like Bill Belichick, but it might be the right decision. At 42 years of age, it might be the right decision.
It's a tough decision. It's a decision that I won't agree with because I'm like, you guys have had 20 years of excellence. You can ride out Tom Brady's career. You can go for 2 seasons where you're 12-4 and you win your division, but you lose the first round of the playoffs. You can give. It's not like Tom Brady is bringing this team down. I mean, could you imagine what this season would have been like if Antonio Brown wasn't allegedly accused, or not allegedly accused, but accused of allegedly sexually assaulting a woman?
Wow, you're right. I mean, that was the extra offensive weapon that they were missing. I mean, this team struggled to move the ball. Imagine having a guy that could be that possession receiver, because I do think Julian Edelman, I think just the wear and tear on his body, going over the middle, just it took a toll. He wasn't the same guy. This team was just not the same offense. They struggled. And you talked about them being 12-4. They were 9-1 at one point. They really struggled on that last part of the season.
Yeah, once they got out of that first 6 or 7 games where they're playing teams like the Giants and the Jets twice and the Dolphins and, excuse me, I'm sure there was like I think there was a Redskins game in there. No offense. Once they got past that part of their season, it was tough. They started playing teams with winning records, teams with playoff caliber players on them. They started playing the Ravens and things of that sort, and they ended up losing. So here we have Tom Brady with no offensive weapons. They're 1 year removed from Rob Gronkowski, and just like Man with the Golden Mic mentioned, he's just like Bama. What they do of excellence isn't just having good talent and winning with good talent. They reload with good talent, and I have full faith in Bill Belichick being able to reload that offense, with or without Tom Brady.
Interesting.
He won't find another Tom Brady, but he can reload. He's not going to find another Rob Gronkowski, but he can reload.
Interesting.
I mean, we've seen tight end play pick up a lot this year, where you have your Kelce's, your Thielens, your I'm trying to think of who that Eagles is. It Zach Ertz. Like, they're not as good as Rob Gronkowski, but they're damn near close.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, man.
Kettleman,
you're absolutely.
What is it? Is it who's
Edelman.
that 49er? No, the 49ers tight end. George Kittle. That's
George
it.
Kittle.
Yeah, he's a beast mode out there. So it's not like they can't find another guy that's on the same level, maybe a step below Rob Gronkowski. Those tight ends exist now in the NFL. You just got to find them.
Yep. So a couple interesting tweets coming in. Our Twitter line's blowing up right now, Chris America. Scott Kaiser's tweeting in. He says, Belichick had another Tom Brady. He's now in San Francisco.
Belichick has another. Oh, you're talking about Jimmy G?
Jimmy G. He had him.
Yeah, he did have him. We got the cursed villain coming in. He's saying, nope, the Brady's done. The dynasty is dead. This is all we saw all weekend long. It was basically the Wizard of Oz. The beginning of Wizard of Oz, the entire NFL fan base was like, ding dong, the witch is dead, the witch is dead, the wicked old witch.
Oh, yeah, the social media blew up. Every fan base everywhere was just jumping on that bandwagon like, all right, that's it. They're dead. Put a fork in them. I mean, they only made the playoffs, had a great record, and just lost a tight game in the playoffs. I mean, that was it. I mean, they're dead. Obviously, there's no competitive spirit left in that team.
Yeah, Bill Belichick is done. Oh, here we go. Everybody has a second team this time of year, and the man with the golden mic, he's got his second team. It's the Ravens. They get to take on the Titans. Do you see the Titans? I mean, if Derrick Henry can get nearly 400 or 200 yards against the Ravens, obviously they have a chance, but I don't see that happening.
Yeah, the problem is Derrick Henry is unbelievable. He's one of these. He's a top 5 running back. I mean, he's a number 1 running back. He's a guy that could make that difference. Now, when you got Lamar Jackson, and I haven't looked at Mark Ingram's status lately. I'm hoping he's going to be able to get back and suit up. But even without Mark Ingram, they've got Gus Edwards back there. They've got some talent, but the Ravens are going to counter what Derrick Henry does with their running game. So it's going to be a good matchup. But the Ravens, I mean, they're a great team, but once you get into the playoffs, things change. So Lamar Jackson, his maturity and his experience in these big game situations, there isn't a lot of it, right? So that could come into play. A lot of what the defense does is going to matter big in these games, and a lot of what the running game does. So not saying that the Ravens aren't going to win, because I do feel like they're going to win, but sometimes in these playoff games, expect the unexpected. And the Titans, they look like they're for real. Mike Vrabel has got this team. He's got them, I guess, going as good as this team could possibly go. I didn't see the Titans being this good right now in the season, and I'm surprised, and I think they're going to be ready for this game against the Ravens. I hope the Ravens don't, I guess I should say, I hope they're prepared. I hope they don't look at the Titans and say, okay, once we beat the Titans, we'll move on to the next level. They've got to be prepared for the team that's in front of them, and that's what I worry about a little bit. This could be a little bit of a trap game for the Ravens.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to get a little bit more production out of Ryan Tannehill than 72 yards, though, because I don't see them holding them to 13 points. That's just not going to happen. So they're going to need more than 72 yards out of Ryan Tannehill. And you mentioned Vrabel doing a great job, and we talked about how Bill Belichick is winning with very, very little offense. Look at Mike Vrabel winning with Ryan Tannehill as his quarterback. This is why I say I hope they don't fall into that trap of signing Tannehill to this big major deal, and they're stuck with him, and this whole first part of the season, or this whole season, was a farce.
Ooh, I don't know. I think you're going a little too far there. I've been impressed
I'm talking about
with
Ryan Tannehill.
I'm just saying. I think Ryan Tannehill's been good. I think he supplanted Marcus Mariota.
That's not saying much.
Well, I mean, nobody can supplant Jameis Winston in Tampa Bay. I mean, that tells you something.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, they were in that same draft class. It's one of those guys that was picked early that was just mediocre for long enough to keep getting second and third chances. To me, Vrabel said, you know what? I'm going to take the best player. And Tannehill outplayed Marcus Mariota. He benches him halfway through the season. And he's looked fantastic. And through his career in Miami, he's had glimpses where he has looked like he's a world beater. Now, he had some injuries, and that's been a problem. And availability is important. But I'm saying you got to pay Tannehill. I mean, look at all these quarterbacks that have gotten paid. Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins. Tannehill's not much different than those types of quarterbacks. I think you got to pay the man. So I understand that you're saying it could be a farce just because you have an outstanding running game and a good defense, and that could be more of why the team is winning. But I think Tannehill needs to be given some credit, and I say you pay the man.
Well, I mean, if we were a coin toss away from us talking about Kirk Cousins losing and Derek Carr, I don't know if you want to use Derek Carr as your example of trying to pay a guy, especially when my point is that you might get stuck with a Derek Carr. A guy that, he's got some sparks, but is he really the guy that's going to lead you over this hump of winning one playoff game and then getting beat by the real teams like the Ravens or the Chiefs, and with quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes and Jackson.
You're giving Derek Carr too much heat. The Raiders, they weren't eliminated from the playoffs until 4 o'clock, week 17. So I'm just saying that you got to give the John Gruden-led Raiders with Derek Carr a little bit more credit than that, my friend. But with that being said, it looks like it's time for a quick commercial break. When we get back, we're going to talk more and more and more about football.
Yeah, Loudbeard, on the other side of the break, I'm going to ask you, which of these two wild card teams that lost are on an upswing and which ones are on a downswing?
Hey, Kawhi, what are you laughing at, man? This isn't funny. Fantasy sports reimagined. FanDuel, that's what I'm talking about. It is more than just fantasy sports. It's the best way to watch the games, win real cash, and bring the action right to your living room. Just choose a contest, make your picks, watch, and win. And if you go to FanDuel.com/STR today, you can get a $5 deposit bonus. Once again, that's FanDuel.com/STR. Come on, man. This is not a laughing matter. If you've been listening to Scout Team Radio for a long time, you know that myself, Loudbeard, has placed a bet or two in his day. That's right, I've lost the beard bet, I lost the romper bet, but one place I don't like losing is when I bet money, and I can easily do that at MyBookie. That's right, you can go to mybookie.ag, use promo code 12OZSports, and get a 100% deposit bonus up to $1,000. Hey, guess what? That is a lot of money. Do it.
When I'm working hard, I build up a thirst for sports. That's when I grab a cold 12-ounce sports radio. "12-ounce sports radio. Quench your sports thirst." Hey everybody, it's your favorite Patriot, Chris America, and I want you to listen every single weekday, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 7 a.m., and on replays from 11 a.m. to noon of Scout Team Sports. Listen, George Washington did not cross over the ocean blue in 1492 to defeat the Nazis, so you can listen to the same tired national clickbait sports stories. So once again, tune in to us every single morning, 6 a.m. to 7 a.m., and then we replay from 11 to noon. I will see you there, and God bless America.
Welcome back. Thank you all for listening in. Once again, we are Scout Team Radio. He is Chris America. I am Loudbeard. We're here each and every morning. Thank you for listening in. Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. on 12-ounce sports radio. You can also download that podcast. That's right. If you can't catch us live, there's nothing wrong with that. You go back, you download the podcast. You can find it anywhere you find podcasts. Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, any of those places. Search Scout Team Radio and you'll find us. Also, don't forget to get interactive. We're getting some hot tweets coming in. A lot of tweeting going on. We got Chris Villain tweeting in. We got the real man with the golden mic. We got Scott Kaiser. We got all kinds of hot tweets coming in. Hit us up on Twitter at Scout Team Radio. We will read your tweets on the air. We will discuss your topics live, and we don't mind doing it. And if you say something stupid, we'll call you out on it in a nice way. Kinda. We're cool like that. Anyway, moving on. Chris America. It has been a crazy weekend. We have talked nonstop playoff sports, and you know what? I think we're gonna keep doing it. But you just talked about swinging. Are you a swinger now? You're up swinging and you're down swinging. Tell me about your swinger lifestyle.
I would be a slinger, but I had YouTube TV had an offer I couldn't refuse, so I went with YouTube TV instead of becoming a slinger. But no, I watched two teams this past weekend, and I came away thinking, man, this one team is on the upswing, and I went away thinking this other team was, Now, I'll give them the excuse that they were riddled with injuries all over, and that is, of course, your Philadelphia Eagles, their Loudbeard. But, man, that team backed their way into the playoffs, and it was just hard to watch. Once Wentz went down, there was just nothing behind him. Boy, were they missing Foles. But, of course, with all the other injuries they had on the team, it would have been tough for anybody to win with that team. But do you think the Eagles are on a downswing, Loudbeard?
I don't. I don't think they're on a downswing. I think they've got to work out a few things. One, they got to get healthier. They can't go through a season losing as many people as they've lost. And I think they got to retool a little bit. I think they've realized that Nelson Aguilar can't catch anything. Alshon Jeffrey's often hurt. Carson Wentz, this is another problem. So now that I'm saying all this out loud, maybe they are on the downswing. The good news is the NFC East is such a dumpster fire. They're going to be competitive each and every year. All three other teams in the NFC East are looking for coaches. So with that being said, I think they're going to be competitive in the NFC East moving forward, just maybe not Super Bowl competitive like they were several years back. But okay, I'm going to think about this for a second, and yep, good. I'll go with your downswing, but just barely on the downswing. I think their biggest problem is Carson Wentz. 3 seasons now, Chris America, this Philadelphia Eagles team has made the playoffs, and they have not been able to utilize their franchise quarterback in the playoffs. And they were going up against a Russell Wilson-led Seahawks yesterday, where Russell Wilson in 8 seasons has not missed a game. So your franchise quarterback can't even make it to the playoffs 3 years straight, and you had to rely heavily the past 2 seasons on Nick Foles, and this season, your backup quarterback is Josh McCown? Seriously? You put all your eggs into the basket that Carson Wentz was going to be able to make it through the entire playoffs, and he was your savior, and oops, he gets injured, big surprise, can't play in a playoff game, and you have Josh McCown as your backup? So that alone, yes, downswing.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, we watched them win that Super Bowl game, and, we know a couple of Eagles fans here locally. You have family members who are Eagle fans, and they were like, and for good reason. I'm not saying that they were wrong or anything. They had every reason to believe that this Eagles team was going to start a little, not necessarily a dynasty, but maybe do what the Seahawks has done the last 10 years, which is just always stay competitive in their division. And when you make the playoffs, they're that team that you say, look out for that Seahawks team. You don't want to play them, even if they're not as good as they were, say, those 2 Super Bowl appearances that they had a few years back. But this isn't that Eagles team. This is a team that looks like it's just gotten progressively worse these last 3 seasons that you talked about. And you're right. It has hinged on the fact that Nick Foles can't stay healthy. And we've always said it. Carson Wentz. The best ability is availability.
Okay, so I've got 2 differing perspectives here. Number 1, I got Chris Villain coming in hot on Twitter. He says, Eagles need to move on from the ginger. Okay, I feel personally attacked. That's one perspective. And then I've got Mike Berlon, who also may have felt personally attacked by that last tweet. He is coming in hot saying, you can't blame Wentz. You can't blame Wentz, though, for getting taken out by a cheap shot on the dome. Okay, I can see where both of these guys are coming from.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you fool me once, shame on me, or shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, because if it was just this one incident, you'd say, yeah, you can't blame Wentz for going down. He got a cheap shot. But like you mentioned, this is a 3-year thing. This is something where they've made the playoffs 3 years in a row, and Carson Wentz has been MIA in those games. Now, Was it a cheap shot? Maybe this one's not on Wentz, but I don't. It just seems to be a recurring theme here for Carson Wentz in his career.
Yeah, and I'm going to say it was a cheap shot. In college, we would call that targeting, and he would have been thrown out immediately. In the pros, typically they're pretty serious about head injuries, but for some reason, when playoff time comes, throw CTE out the window. We don't care about how we treat players. And Scott Kaiser's coming in. He says one that wasn't even called, should have been an ejection, suspend him for the week 2. Yes, Jadeveon Clowney should be suspended, and I'm telling you, that wasn't the way you want to win a playoff game. I wanted to see Carson Wentz out there. I want to see him successful, but you're right. The fact of the matter is he's missed the last 3 playoffs, and this was his chance to show something in the playoffs, and he did. He got a pretty nasty cheap shot. Jadeveon Clowney basically speared him head-to-head and put his head right into the ground. Tough way to go for Wentz, man. That was not pretty.
Yeah, Mike Merlon hit me with a George Bush gif because I messed up the shame on me, fool me once, shame on me expression, just like good old George W. did.
Yeah, you guys are basically brothers.
Yeah, I wish. I could use some of that money. Loudbeard, now I talked about an upswing team that lost this weekend, and I'm talking about the Buffalo Bills. Are the Buffalo Bills on an upswing, Loudbeard, coming off of a playoff loss?
Yes, he absolutely was on an upswing, or they are absolutely on an upswing. But I want to say it's because of, one, their defense, but the other area that I want to discuss is Josh Allen. I saw after this game, Josh Allen was getting a lot of heat. I saw a lot of people out there saying, oh, the Bills, if they had a better quarterback, they would have won. I liked what I saw out of Josh Allen. He made a lot of plays with his legs. Now, there was some questionable decisions. He took a couple sacks that were really detrimental to this team being successful. He had that awful shovel pass. So he made some tough decisions, but he's still a very young quarterback. He's extremely athletic, and the Bills were competitive throughout this game. They even had a 16-point lead at one point, which they should not have blown. That's a whole different story. But yes, to me, this Bills team is going in the right direction. They're young, they're hungry, and they're definitely moving in the right direction. I love a lot of the pieces this Bills team has, and if they get some more weapons and they keep retooling, this could be a dangerous team moving forward. And as we spoke of the New England dynasty dying, usually when something dies, something else has to emerge. And in the AFC over in the East, you have to look at the Bills being that team that could finally overthrow that New England Patriots dynasty. I think the Bills are on the upswing.
Yeah, and the cursed villain, he agrees with you, man. He says Bills are on the rise, great defense, and Josh Allen is coming around. I saw a Bills fan within the Craft Brewed Sports Facebook group. He's like, I'm ready to tank next season and get a new quarterback. And I'm like, man, it's his first playoff game. And he did pretty decent in the first half. Had some great plays in the second half, but you can't allow another team to come back from down 16-0. And I thought he didn't do so bad. I mean, imagine if Raven fans gave up on Lamar Jackson last year after his first playoff performance on the road. Remember how bad that was for Lamar Jackson?
Mm-hmm.
Against against the Chargers, right? They got blown out. People were saying, "Oh, put Joe Flacco back in. Lamar Jackson's not the future."
Those people, they've deleted those tweets. But I do remember people saying that. Why somebody would say something that was that foolish is beyond me. But that's what we do. We as fans, we have these knee-jerk reactions. And I think the knee-jerk reaction on Josh Allen is terrible. That guy is good. Why are we treating him like he's terrible? I don't understand it. And I think that this guy is just going to continue to get better and better. And I liked what I saw out of the Bills. Now, it is tough when you go up against a Texans team where Deshaun Watson he's one of those guys that'll disappear for the first 3 quarters, then all of a sudden just blow up in the fourth quarter. It's not like this is the first time he's done this. This guy is known for this. So it's not surprising that the Texans all of a sudden just catch fire late in this game and Deshaun Watson plays out of his mind. It's part of life. That's going to happen in football. It's going to happen. So let's not put this all on Josh Allen. Bills are still a really good team. They have an amazing defense, too. I don't want to put that past them either. But I see positive things in an upswing for this Bills team.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't want anybody to think that I'm comparing Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. I'm just saying you can't look at a bad game because Lamar Jackson had a worse first playoff game than what Josh Allen had. Like, they got blown out. Their offense was anemic. Nobody saw the Ravens coming this year, especially if you go off of that Chargers-Ravens game from the playoffs last year. And, I'm all about it. But, yeah, and then Scott Kaiser's tweeting in, there were a ton of people who said Lamar wasn't the answer. Shocker, we didn't hear that as loudly after the Bills game, but I have a feeling I know why. And, of course, he tweeted a GIF from Trevor Noah, right? That's his name. I can never remember the new guy, only because I don't watch that show anymore. And it says, and he's black, which is not ideal.
Oh, this is the world we live in. Let's be real here. This is it. This is where
nobody's
we're going.
calling Josh Allen, and we had this discussion too. Nobody's calling Josh Allen a wide receiver or running back playing the quarterback position.
Nope, not at all.
Anyways, so Loudbeard, what else do we want to talk about? I had a hard time thinking, like, how far back do we go since we've been gone for 2 weeks? I mean, I don't know that we can talk about the college football playoffs because it seems so long ago. Like, it feels like forever ago. Do you like that they have such a big gap in between the playoff games and then the national title game? I mean, it's better than what it used to be. It used to be a whole month, because the season ended and there wasn't a quote-unquote playoff. But isn't it like – it feels like it's like 2 or 3 weeks.
It is, and I feel like we're going to have plenty of time to talk about all that craziness. But it is this gap in between. It makes it difficult to really get into it because you almost forget that the national championship is coming up. You almost forget that we're going to see LSU hopefully overcome Clemson because I don't know if I want to see Clemson win again. I think I'm done with that. Jazz.
Yeah.
What about you?
I don't know. But
could care less either way.
I will go back to that Bills Texans game. We talked about the referees making a difference. Did you watch the game?
Yes, I did watch the game, and I think I know what you're going to talk about. That bizarre kickoff play. Are you going to talk about that?
Yeah, the bizarre touchback at the beginning of the first half or second half. What did you make of it?
Well, I think the call was right when they reversed it and said he gave himself up. But in the end, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, you are a professional NFL player. You should kneel and show that you are giving yourself up that way. Like, don't just make it where it's a questionable call, right? Like, I think he made it so that, and number 14, I forget the kick returner's name, but he made it so that it was a difficult call. That would have changed the game. The Texans would have lost because of that if that would have held up.
Well, we have to go back. First of all, let's say it wasn't he gave himself up. Number one, it wasn't a fumble recovered for a touchdown. It would have been an illegal forward pass, which would have resulted in a safety. So there is a difference there. And a lot of people are forgetting. They're like, oh, no, that's a fumble recovered for. No, it's an illegal forward pass, which is a penalty, and it's a safety. I don't think you can't pick up a illegal forward pass, can you?
Well, I mean, if they considered it a legal forward pass, here the deal is whether it was 2 points or 7 points or 6 points or whatever that score ended up being. What you're looking at is a overtime game that would have never made it to overtime with any point scored.
But I definitely think that when the Texans had the ball towards the end, I think they would have made different play calling. They wouldn't have been so conservative like they were and just trying to run the clock down. You know what I mean? Like, that's the other difference is it's kind of like the butterfly effect. What happens after this? Now, you're right. If that score held up and everything happened exactly the way it happened, then no, the Bills win that game. But I just don't know. We just don't know what the Texans and the Bills would have done, after that.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you. You don't know what's going to happen, but that was a bizarre play. And I when they kept showing it, I'm like, what is the player doing? Like, he's just like, here you go. And the ref's like, no, dude, like, don't throw it to me. Oh, nope, you did it. You threw it. That's it. It's live. And the referee called it a touchdown. So he was considering that a fumble. He wasn't considering that a forward pass. So I don't know. The whole thing was bizarre, but I think the right move was the call that they made.
Well, the head referee was just dumb. He was the dumbest guy in the room because everybody else in the stadium knew that he was giving himself up. Now, there is no rule. Like, everybody checked on Twitter and said, like, there's no rule that says, like, you give yourself up by just staring at the referee and tossing him the football. Like, there's nothing that says that that's a touchback. You have to down the football. But the referee was definitely in front of the guy, and he tossed it to the referee, and he called it a fumble. Like if you're in front of the player, then you have to know that that's a forward pass, do you not?
You would think so.
Yeah. And Scott Kaiser tweeting in, he says, "Holy God, is the CFP National Championship tonight?" Yeah, that's entirely too long. No. Scott Kaiser, it's not tonight. It's
Monday.
Next week.
See, he's confused because you brought it up too early. Hey, we got a whole nother week to sit here and stew over it. Now, we got just a couple minutes left. I do have to bring up one topic that I think's gotten kind of interesting over the last week or so. It finally comes out yesterday that it's official that Jason Garrett's not coming back. Has this been like a 2-week tango where we're like, Jason Garrett's not coming back? There's no way. Oh, he's having 17 meetings with Jerry Jones, and they can't make it official. They're interviewing other guys, but they're going to not officially announce it, and they're going to keep it bringing in Jason Garrett for more interviews. What a bizarre series of events here for the Dallas Cowboys.
Loudbeard, this is that. I don't know if you've ever been in this relationship, but this is that typical relationship where you're with somebody and you know they're really good for you. You know that, like, you get along well. You guys are great friends. You like hanging out with each other. But at the end of the day, deep down inside, you know that they're more of just a friend. They're not a relationship. They're not a girlfriend. They're not a wife. They're that person to you. And so what do you do in that relationship? You break up with them, but then they kind of cry and they remind you of all the good times. You're like, yeah, you're right. We did have some good times. Maybe we can make it work out. And then like the next day you're like, no, but I need to move on. Like, this isn't right for me. And it's like one of those relationships where you break up like 15 times before you finally just call it quits.
That was a hell of an analogy.
Would have been good if we could mic drop that way out the door. I mean, we can if we want to end 3 minutes early.
I know. That was impressive. I really like that analogy, but you're right. I think Jerry Jones truly likes Jason Garrett. He feels very good about what he's done for this team. He just realizes that he's not going to be the guy that gets him to the Super Bowl. He's not going to be the guy that gets him to that next level. Jason Garrett is a hell of an 8-8 coach, and that's all he's been. And your analogy hits it perfect, right on the bullseye. Boom. Nailed it, Chris America. I can't say anything more about it than what you just did. So the other thing on this whole Jason Garrett thing that I think is kind of crazy is the interviews that they've had. So it looks like Mike McCarthy and Marvin Lewis are both being interviewed, and the Dallas Cowboys are saying that they want somebody with extensive NFL experience, which completely throws out Lincoln Riley, completely throws out Urban Meyer and Matt Rule and all these other college coaches because they want an NFL-style coach. So McCarthy and Marvin Lewis are the top two leading candidates currently for this Cowboys job. Did I lose you, Chris America? Man, that was a hell of a mic drop. You know what? With that being said, I guess we just have to look at this. Let's see. Jerry had to make sure all the pictures that Garrett had of him in compromising positions were collected and destroyed before he could pull the trigger on firing him. Thank you, Mike Berlon. That's a great way for us to end the show.
Here, that was weird.
Yeah, you are weird.